Hey, everybody, it's Mike Watson coming back to you for podcast number 2 in the Common Things, Uncommon Ways series. Very excited to have you join me here today. The quest of this podcast is to teach us how to be distinct, how to be different, how to be unique, how to be special. Now, we're all special in our own ways, but how can we use the special part of who we are, our character, our experience, our wisdom, our history, all of those things to change how we're getting results in this life. So one of the things that we want to talk about today, the main topic of this podcast will be communication. How do we communicate? That's what we want to talk about. But first, we have to talk a little bit about becoming self-aware. This is a topic we'll probably delve more deeply into in the future, but we have to become self-aware if we want to learn how to have better communication skills. Let me give it a great example that has nothing to do with communication. Now, one of the things that we just recently did here at our office is we announced a weight loss challenge. And because I'm in real estate, we had a weight loss challenge we called the Fat Developer Weight Loss Challenge. Now, I don't know if you know any fat real estate developers. And if I weren't self-aware, I would say I don't know any fat real estate developers. But weight is something that I've been working on and I would have wanted to improve for a long period of time. So anyways, we announce this contest, we get excitement and enthusiasm around it, people sign up for it, and all of a sudden we've got people and their weights and their numbers and their measurements coming in. And one of the interesting parts about this was I really was surprised and taken back that many of the competitors turned in their weight and pictures of themselves, and they said, I had no idea how much I weighed. I had no idea how I looked. I had no idea things had gotten this bad. And I thought to myself, gosh, with something so overt as our physical appearance, something so overt as something you see in the mirror every day, we get feedback on how our clothes feel when we put them on. It was really surprising to me. And I said, that makes sense because I believe most of us are not self-aware. We're not painfully self-aware of who we are, how we act, how we respond, and more than that, and more important than that on any topic is today, how we communicate. So I want to talk about that because that's so important that we become self-aware. Now, in talking about communication, this is all going to be about, first of all, identifying who we are as a communicator. Second, it's going to come down to how we can improve ourselves. And then lastly, the cool part of this is going to be how can we be unique and different? How can we communicate in uncommon ways that make unbelievable gains for our self-esteem, our belief systems, our relationships, and lastly, the results that we get in business and in life. So let's get started. Now, while there are many types of communications, guys, I want to really focus on the verbal and written communication today. Those are the ones that we spend a lot of time in, but there are also other types of communication. So one of the things that I really see as a student of other people and as a student of communication, I listen very carefully when I go to church and hear people speak. I listen very carefully when I communicate around the office, when I read emails, when I get phone calls and texts. Most people are very poor communicators. And guys, if I say to my office all the time and those people that I coach, if you don't choose to be distinct in your communications, you're choosing not to have distinction or to be distinct in your results. Let me say that again. If you're not distinct in how you communicate and distinguished in how you communicate, you're not going to have distinct or distinguishable results. So those are very cool things. Let me give you a couple of examples of some of the communication out there that drives me nuts. I get a lot of phone calls. There's days where I'll do between 150 and 200 texts, phone calls, and emails. Now, one of the first things that we want to remember from episode number 1 is we're always looking for trends, and then we're looking for those outliers. So the trends are the way everybody does things, and the outliers are the people that come along that do things differently, and they do things in a special manner. We want to, in some regards, mimic the things that the special people are doing, but then the Common Things and Uncommon Ways series is all about how can I learn how to be special and distinct and do it in a way that is different for me and different for my company, different in my relationships. So I can't tell you how many phone calls a day I get that start like this. Is this Mike? And I literally answer the phone call and say hello. And their response is their big kickoff. And this is typically someone I don't know, the big start of our relationship is this Mike? And I think to myself, wow, that is not the proper way to start a phone call. And my immediate response back is, who's calling? I mean, what a horrible way to start a conversation. Can you imagine sitting next to someone on the subway saying, is your name Bob? Well, who's asking? It's just not a good way to start a conversation. It puts people on their heels. You're not prepared. You're not professional. Much better conversation starter on a phone call is, hey, this is Mike Watson. I'm the CEO of Sumatera Ventures. I'm looking at a property out here that you own. I'd love to hear more information about it. Am I speaking with Bob? That gives a lot more information. It's a lot more endearing, a lot more inviting. The text messages I get on a regular basis, I get text messages like the following one. Hey, do you own a property that you have for sale right now? Well, our company has properties in 5 states, and they haven't introduced themselves. They haven't said who they are. They haven't said which property it is. And I will reply back often something as ineffectual as what they do by saying something like, I have no idea which property you're talking about. Oh, you have one on Broadway Street. Is that for sale? Oh, I have 3 on Broadway Street. Which one is it on Broadway Street? The more distinct that we can become, the more results it will get. So the way we communicate then is important. And if how we communicate is important, wouldn't it be important to listen to our own communications? Wouldn't it be important to read and study our own communications? So one of the things that I want to do is give you some easy things to change, some easy exercises. And I fear, because of past knowledge and history, that the ease of these issues, the ease of these opportunities to change, and the simpleness of them, you won't do them. For example, I coach. I do a lot of coaching in real estate coaching. I do a lot of business coaching, and I do a lot of training for wealth creating. And one of the things that I do constantly is teach people how to understand the way they communicate. And they just won't go to the effort of making a study on how they sound, how they look, how they're received. And they literally continue making phone calls saying, is this Mike? I mean, that's not a way to start a conversation. And a lot of us, all of our communications come across that way. So I wanted to give you some examples of some things that you can do that literally can change immediately the tenor of your communication, the tenor of your results, and the ease at which you feel in creating and improving relationships that you have interpersonally in business and in other ways. So the first thing that I want to do is recommend to you, and if I were being a little more direct, I demand of you that you record yourself daily. Yes, I said that right. I often record myself on my cell phone every single day. We record meetings, we record phone calls, we record all kinds of things. There's reasons we do that for keeping records of what we do. But the unique thing about that, and that's, by the way, uncommon, the unique thing about that is we store files of those so that we have those recordings available to us. But the other thing that's unique about them is we go back and listen to them. Can you imagine what you sound like? And I would say for most of you, no, you cannot. Because if you understood how you sounded, you'd sound different. You go on a quest or a campaign to sound different. So one of the things that I do is I record key and important meetings and discussions for the intent of listening to them again. So a very simple task I'm going to give you that almost no one that I train will do, and I don't know why that is, but is to record yourself daily. Listen, you leave work, you got to drive home. The challenge is record yourself daily on a phone call, on a Zoom call, on just a face-to-face conversation, and listen to it on the way home, and then listen to it again. And it will be immediately telling to you how you sound. And just like the guy who weighed in on the scale and said, I had no idea I was that heavy and that I had no idea that I weighed that much, you'll listen to yourself and say, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I sounded like that. And that should not be the case. You should have immediate and constant feedback on the way you communicate. And that's one of the ways that you can do that, is to literally record yourself and play it back. Very, very crucial. That's number one. Number two, that I want to challenge you to do AI. A lot of us are doing artificial intelligence, and I don't necessarily use those to craft my emails. I know people that do, and they write pretty good emails, right? If you say to artificial intelligence, write this, this, and this with this tone, and I want this outcome. And then the more you do it, the more the artificial intelligence gets to know you. I don't recommend that because AI is not going to do presentations for you at work. AI is not going to be in your next interpersonal communication. AI is not going to speak for you at church. You need to do the work and AI can clean it up for you. But the beautiful thing about AI is I recommend a simple daily task, again, that will promote self-awareness, and it will also give you the opportunity to improve. Is I'll write an email. I challenge my people around here at work and the people that I coach, write a singular 100-word email a day or less, copy and paste it into AI and say to AI some of the following things, literally. Make this 100-word email, you don't have to state 100-word to AI, make this email sound like a legal expert wrote it. Now, that's great, and AI will make it sound like a legal expert wrote that email, not you. But here's the growth. Read your original email and then read the one that AI produced. And the difference is now we're starting to see a difference in the trend in the way you communicate and the outlier in the way that you could communicate. Now, I don't want to just stop there. That took you literally 60 seconds to 2 minutes to do that. If you're a student of the game and you want to communicate better, one of the things that you'll do is you'll say to AI, write the same email, but make it more kind. And then compare that to the legal email and to your email. Next one could be write it like you're the smartest English professor in America. And it will produce a different email. And the variations in the AI produced or promulgated emails is the gap or the difference it can be in your life, in the way that you can improve your communications. And if you do that daily, there's constant feedback literally of, gosh, I don't sound like a legal expert. And maybe you're not one, but you can sound more legal minded. Gosh, I'm not very kind. I'm kind of terse and direct in my emails. Now you have feedback on a regular basis. Gosh, I don't use good words. I my punctuation, my commas, all those things don't look good. That's a form of communication that you can immediately get feedback on. And it's great feedback. And if you do that on a daily basis, the communication starts to look and sound different to yourself, and you'll start adopting those things and changing the way that you communicate, which is so important to us. Now, so that's another thing. Another thing that I'll do, which is a very simple thing, is I do word counts occasionally. I'll write emails. Guys, don't send emails that are over 100 words. If you're writing an email that's over 100 words, you're going to lose your audience in a lot of cases, especially if it's an email of solicitation of some kind. Hey, I want to sit down for lunch. Hey, I'd like to present a product. Hey, I'm interested in getting to know your company. Hey, I'd like to bid your work. All of those things, the longer the email is, the less likely it is that you're going to be successful. Write it up, listen to it, constant feedback, constant results, record yourself, listen to yourself. And the more I've done that, guys, the more I've created this sense of self-feedback, self-awareness. The more I've done this, the more I've been able to change the way that I communicate. So wonderful, wonderful things. Now, some of the reasons that we really, really need to become uncommon. Again, the quest of this podcast is to do common things in uncommon ways. So the first thing we have to do is identify what's common, what's trending is common. Second thing we want to do is how can we improve that and be special at what regular people do? And that becomes the outlier. So those are the trends, the common things. The outlier is how we can do things that others aren't doing or do the best of the trends that we see. But the real special part of this is to become different, is to create a different thought process, a different communication process, a different relationship process with everything we do and everyone we come in contact with. So that's special. So one of the reasons I do this is I tell everyone I come in contact with, listen, everything you do is a tryout. Everything you do is a tryout. Whether you're trying out to have a relationship with someone, whether you're trying out to have a second follow-up opportunity with someone, if you're in business and you make a sale, and this is a customer that could buy lots of product from you, it's a tryout. Your first relationship is a tryout. In the first call, you guys will remember The first podcast that we had, we talked about the weekly feedback letters that we send to customers of ours. And those weekly feedback letters are fantastic because they're a tryout for other things. So when we put a piece of property under contract, we will literally once a week send an update letter to the seller with all the things that we're working on that property. We'll send an update letter to all of the things that we're doing the next week. If we've had meetings, we give the results of those meetings. If we've done reports or testing, we send those reports and testing. So on a weekly basis, a seller gets a feedback letter from our firm on everything that's happening on their property, and they get reports and updates in real time. Additionally, for the following week, they get invited to any meetings that we have. So if there's a meeting with a city or something public about that, or a utility or those things, the sellers get invited because they realize, oh my gosh, these guys are special at communicating. In fact, I was talking to one of my friends, and it was an unbelievable realization. He said to me, hey, Mike, I really want you to know you've been very impactful in my business. And I said, well, give me an example. I said, that's great. I appreciate you saying that. And he said, well, I'm a subcontractor in a particular trade, and I do a lot of business. And this guy has a fantastic business, and he's an even better person. But he said, I am one of the few subcontractors out there that do what you do. And I said, tell me more. And he said, I write a weekly update to all of the contractors and owners that I do business with. So if I'm a particular trade in a building process, I write an update once a week to these guys so that they get a weekly update from me wherever they're at in the process. We literally have the opportunity to win their business through communication. There's never a question of where we are. There's never a question of where our product is. There's never a question about our timelines, our delivery, our installation. All of those things happen. And he said, that's just been fantastic for us. And I learned that from you. That's been fantastic. So guys, that's a form of communication, communicating in a way that is different and common for other businesses. So again, everything's a tryout. Does this subcontractor want to win more business? Does this subcontractor want every client that he works with, every builder that he builds with, every owner that job sites that he works on, for them to crave seeing him and to crave working with him because of the expert nature that he's organized and he communicates? Absolutely. So we want to keep winning in relationships. Now, I want to tell you a list of the things that we have that are main communication issues that I see all the time that you can easily change also. And some of this will become very apparent for you as you listen to your recordings, as you listen and read your emails back, and you compare your emails versus the AI emails, as you see how wordy or succinct you are, how distinct you are in your language. Here's some really fun things that we can talk about. The first thing that I see constantly in communication are verbal tics. I call them verbal tics. A verbal tic is holding words like I know people that cannot start or finish a sentence without the word or How different would this podcast be if each sentence started with a word it's a terrible communication pattern, and it's very easy to identify and fix once you're self-aware that that's a constant issue that you have. Very easy to fix. So verbal tics, it's not just and it's like. Many people do you know, well, I wanted to go to the store, but I was tired and I wasn't sure what I was going to buy. And I didn't know I had cashed my check yet. And communication with tics is absolutely terrible. So one of the things you want to take out of your communication, and it's easy not to do that in written communication because you see it on the paper in front of you, but for some reason people can't hear it. They're not good at hearing it. The next one is foul language. No foul language, guys. One of the rules that I have is there's no foul language. If you ever catch a foul word out of my mouth, I'd be shocked. And it's not because I'm special or better than someone else. It just tempers communication in a very serious manner. And if you're a person that swears or swears often, consider making that change. It's not the highest level of professionalism. It doesn't do any good for the conversations. People might think, hey, you're a little more serious. But believe me, I can be very serious and very direct in my communications without using foul words. The other thing to consider is if you're using foul language in a communication with someone and they're not using foul language back in their responses to you, Stop swearing. Stop using foul language. It's such a poor way to express yourself. Everything is a tell. And if you're going to communicate at a low level, you're telling people that you have either low self-esteem, low standards, or a low vocabulary. Which one is it of those that you want to promote to other people with foul language? Do you have low vocabulary, low self-esteem, or a low level of professionalism? Which one are you comfortable sharing with people that you come in contact with? No foul language. Next one is dumb jokes. The funny part about dumb jokes is that's one area where people are self-aware. Somebody tells a joke and it's hilarious and everyone laughs. Are they going to tell that joke again? Yeah, they tell that joke again and they tell it a lot. However, the reverse is often true, but not always. If you tell a dumb joke to someone and no one laughs, are you more apt to tell that joke again? Well, again, I know some people that tell some of the same jokes and no one ever laughs. And you want to take them aside and say to them, that's just not very funny, man. You need to come up with some more work, or you need to stop telling jokes anymore. But that's one area where there's comedy that gives immediate feedback for people. And joking is great. Being lighthearted is great. That's a great part of communication. You want to make sure you don't rely on that too heavily. Next thing is I talk to a lot of people that are repeaters. And again, another thing that I do from time to time is when I listen to myself on a recording that I have, I'll compare that to emails. Now, one of the things that people do when they communicate is they repeat the same things over and over again. And a lot of times they do that because they're not getting the result they want. And they believe that if they keep saying the same things over and over again, like imagine a carpet salesman comes to your house and say, this is the most durable carpet and it's stain resistant. And that's the reason that you should buy it from our company. And you say, okay, great. Well, do you mind measuring it up for me so I can see what the price might be? And their response is, well, it's very durable. It's very stain resistant. And yeah, let me see how much durable and stain resistant space we're going to have in here for our durable and stain resistant carpet. And they say it so many times, it becomes a tell that either they don't have confidence in their carpet or they don't have anything else to say about it. So guys, as you listen to yourself, don't repeat the same things over and over again. Now, I find myself once in a while saying something a second time for impact, but say it a different way. And I'm talking about people that if I have a 20-minute conversation with you, you literally take 3 or 4 points of that conversation and say it again and again and again. And each of those points might be repeated 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You're a repeater. And repeaters lose their audience. People don't want to listen to them. And it creates this perception that you don't have anything else valid to say or important to connote or denote or communicate. So don't repeat. And again, you won't catch yourself doing that until you listen to it and you see, gosh, I'm a repeater. I'm definitely a repeater. Next thing I want to recommend to you in communication is look people in the eye. It's a very different thing. If I were to do this podcast right now and I was sitting here, I've got this idea and I want to share it with you. And it's a very different look and feel than when I'm intently engaging the people, the person, or the audience that I'm talking to. Look people in the eye. Look them in the eye continuously. Look them in the eye in the most important points. Talk to people in a way that they know that you're intently interested in what you're saying and your response to it. If I'm looking over here trying to talk and I'm looking over here, I have no idea what your response is because a lot of communication is nonverbal. Most people know that. A lot of communication is nonverbal. So look people in the eye. Be serious about that. Speak with a strong and firm voice. Listen to yourself. Strong, firm, direct voice. Easy again. Very, very easy to do. If you're listening to yourself and you see to yourself, gosh, I had my phone here on the desk and I was recording me and my conversation with John, and I drove home and I listened to that conversation with John, and gosh, I couldn't hear John much at all because John's over there, but I can't hear myself very well either. And you got to turn the radio way up. Man, don't turn the radio way up. Get a firm voice. Be direct. Have some conviction in what you're saying. Be passionate about your communication, the way you're sharing the information that you have. Next, the next thing that you want to focus on is the way you're responding to people. I see this a lot. And again, this is easy to fix. I'll say to people, I'll do an interview with someone, or someone will come in for some coaching, or they'll say, hey, I want to learn how to buy more properties. And I'll say, how many properties do you own? Hey, Bob, nice to meet you today. How many properties do you own? And Bob's response isn't, I have 6 fix and flips, I have 6 rental houses, and I have 2 apartment buildings. That's not Bob's answer. Bob says, I want to buy properties in Salt Lake City and Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Gainesville, Florida, and have heard that South Dakota's hot. And I will say back to Bob again, that's fantastic, Bob. How many properties do you own? And Bob might say, I'm really concerned about my down payment, my financing. I don't know if I can handle a bigger load. I don't have a big enough staff to do the work. I'm already feeling like I'm overworked. And I'll say again, Bob, I know that question wasn't clear. How many properties do you own? And I find myself doing this all the time. It's painful how resistant people are to answering the question. What does that say about somebody if someone says to you, how many properties do you own? And your response is about everything but how many properties you own. You will not answer the question, how many properties you own. There's a problem there, and people do that more than they think, more than they're often aware of. So simple advice, answer the question. Answer the question, communicate at a professional level. These are things that will change the tenor of your business immediately. And then you can do that in comparison to a lot of the people that you're working with. One of the things that you want to do also is add in new vocabulary. Guys, as I've studied the way I communicate more, I find that I'm a better listener. So I don't watch the news much, but I do watch clips on things here and there. And I attend church, for example, and I go to business meetings and conferences and different things like that. And I listen very carefully, and I listen to the tics and the ebb and the flow of the communications. I've become a student of communication because I want to be better at communication. I want to obviously easily see how others communicate regularly. I want to recognize and identify the best communicators and take notes, not just on what they're sharing, but the communication strategies that they have. And then I want to say, how can I improve on that? How can I be different? How can I be uncommon? How can I be a great communicator? So some of the things that you want to learn how to do are to be distinct, direct, concise, focused in your communication. And again, a lot of that will come with polish. One of the things that happens, for example, is I'll be asked to give I get asked to speak all the time about either business strategies, wealth creation, real estate development. I get asked all the time. And when I get asked, oftentimes they say, hey, come to my office and spend 45 minutes talking to this group about that. I will often do a 45-minute presentation. I'll prepare that presentation, and on the way to work, on the way home, at the gym, on the treadmill, in the shower, I will do that presentation again and again. And when I stand up in front of that group to do that presentation, it won't be the 1st, the 5th, the 10th, or the 15th time that I've done that. In fact, one of the funny things my wife and I have as a comment in our marriage is she'll oftentimes walk by the shower. I'll literally be showering in the morning, and she'll say, who are you talking to in there? And I'm invariably communicating in preparation for a presentation. So you listen to yourself. There's no one that you're speaking to. It's very easy to listen to yourself and identify how you can improve. Last thing I want to say is, as you listen to other people, identify new vocabulary. It's a lot of fun to study new words and add new vocabulary and become a different communicator, a special and unique communicator. And again, the way you communicate is a big part of how successful you'll be. So this is episode 2 in our Common Things in Uncommon Ways series, our quest to be different, our quest to be unique, our quest to be special. How can we convey ourselves, communicate with others in a unique and special way? I think I'm giving you some great tips today. I'd love to get some feedback, add some comments below, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Have a great day.